If you're vegan and you're missing box mix brownies, then let me introduce you to your absolute new favorite vegan brownie recipe. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Britt and I'm the vegan food blogger behind the Banana Diaries, and today we're making my absolute favorite vegan brownie recipe. This recipe has been approved even by non-vegans as their favorite brownie recipe in general, so I just know you're gonna love this. It's very similar to making regular brownies except minus the eggs and the dairy, and trust me, you're not gonna miss it. So without further ado, let's begin. First up, we are going to make our vegan flax egg. So this is just 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed going into a half a cup of coffee. Now typically with a flax egg, I usually use just water, but because I want the coffee flavor in the brownies, the coffee is gonna help enrich that chocolate flavor. I'm going to actually just put the flax into the coffee and then mix it together, and then it'll be kind of like a coffee flax egg. No one really does that, but I'm doing it. And it works, it really does. So we're just gonna mix that around, and you don't have to mix it super well, just like let that sit. And while that's sitting, we are going to gather other ingredients in a separate bowl. So for this part, we're gonna add in our brown sugar, which is half a cup. Then we're gonna do 3/4 of a cup or 150 grams of granulated sugar. And then 1/3 cup of either aquafaba or soy milk. I'm using soy milk today, but I typically make this with aquafaba. I think the aquafaba gives a little bit of a shinier crust, but because we have such a high sugar content, which I know there's a lot of sugar going into these, but it's purposeful because the sugar is actually what gives the crinkle top on top. So it's usually with brownies, it's usually the egg whites and the sugar. So we're using a higher sugar content and then also a soy milk or an aquafaba, and that will replicate the shiny, crinkly, crackly top on our brownies. And then we're gonna add in our flaxseed here. So it's like nice and thick, nice and gloopy here. And we're just gonna pour that in. And then we're gonna add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then this is not usually how you do it, but I like to add the salt to the wet ingredients instead of the dry. I just think that it makes it a little bit more even since salt dissolves better into wet. So we're gonna add in a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. All right, and now you can either use a whisk or you can use a hand mixer for this. I'm gonna use a hand mixer today because it's gonna be a little bit faster. So basically what we're doing is we're gonna dissolve the sugar into our wet ingredients until you don't feel any granules left. That's gonna be crucial for creating the crinkle on top. Which is why I like to use a hand mixer, because it's a little bit less of an arm workout than if you're just using a whisk. But I have made this entire recipe with a whisk. I can show you, actually I did it on Instagram, so I'll just put the video right there. But it is super easy as well, it takes a little bit longer. And because we have hot coffee in here, it's actually going to help the sugar dissolve a little bit faster as well, so that you don't have to be whisking all day long. See how that feels. So just pinch a little bit and you'll see if you feel any of the hard granules. If you do, which I still do, then you're gonna keep mixing. If you don't, then you can move on to the next step. Okay, so the sugar has completely dissolved into our mixture here. So now we're gonna switch gears and we're going to put our chocolate chips under this bowl. And we have 6 ounces of vegan chocolate chips, and you're gonna pour half a cup of very, very hot vegan butter over the chocolate chips. And this is going to help them melt. And this will be for our fudge sauce. So I'm just going to make sure that all of the chocolate chips are completely soaked in the hot vegan butter, or else they're not gonna fully melt. And you can just let that stand for a second so that it completely heats the chocolate, and then it's just easier to stir. After that's been sitting for a few minutes, you can then use your hand mixer again and just gently mix the chocolate in there, and it should be completely melted. So this is perfect. You want the chocolate integrated with the butter here, because then we're gonna make our fudge sauce, which if you've ever had Ghirardelli brownies or any box mix brownies, you know that the fudge sauce is so crucial to this. I can't speak today. So we're gonna add in 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. I'm using Dutch process, and that's super important if you want fudgy brownies and not cake brownies. All natural cocoa powder is going to make these brownies rise, regardless of whether you have a baking soda in it, it's still gonna be a little bit more cakey, whereas the Dutch process is a different type of processing the cocoa powder, and that will make the brownies fudgier. So we're gonna mix the cocoa powder in here again. Be very slow with this because the cocoa powder might spray into your face. Just go to the first notch first. And we're gonna mix it until it's completely integrated into our melted chocolate and butter mixture. I know, it really does smell so good. All right, this is perfect. So now we're gonna return to our wet mixture and we're gonna pour this into our hot fudge. The instructions say that you can pour the hot fudge into this wet mixture. You can honestly do either, it doesn't matter. Whichever bowl is easiest for you to mix in. I just figured I don't wanna waste any of the chocolate. So I wanna make sure that all the chocolate gets into these brownies. All right, and then we can just set that aside there. Keep your spatula out because we will need that. And now we're just going to mix until this is integrated. It's gonna be quite thick because of the flaxseed in there. All right, this is perfect. And now we're gonna add in 200 grams or about 1.75 cups of all-purpose flour or gluten-free flour. So you can use gluten-free flour here. I recommend using King Arthur measure for measure baking flour. It's the gluten-free one. That works amazingly in this recipe. We don't need to add anything else, just our flour here. So now I'm gonna put this on low speed because I don't wanna overwork the flour and then cause it to be like really glutinous. So just low speed to help integrate. It's a very thick batter to help integrate the flour into the brownie batter. Ooh, getting flour everywhere. Okay. Nearly there. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect because we're gonna take our spatula again. So I'm gonna stop actually right here. I'm gonna set this aside. We're gonna take our spatula and we're gonna grab some extra vegan chocolate chips and I'm just going to sprinkle them in here because I like to see when I slice into them, like some extra melty chocolate. I think that's really fun. And then we're just gonna fold that into the batter. Just a few folds here because we don't want to overwork the batter, but that right there is perfect. Okay, so we have a 9x9 parchment paper lined baking pan. You can also use 8x8. The brownies are just gonna need to bake a little bit longer if you do that. And we're just gonna pour our batter into our prepared baking pan. Oh, and the oven is set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, by the way. Okay. Just want to get all the brownie batter in there. All right, and then we're just gonna spread the batter so that it reaches the edge of the pan. You'll also notice there are no leavening agents in this brownie recipe, which is really cool. So it just makes it like super, super simple. They're gonna still be really thick brownies, but it really is gonna be like fudge, which is why I love this recipe so much. It honestly is better than box mix. Okay, and now we are into the oven for about 27 to 30 minutes with the 9x9 pan, but just check your brownies too with the toothpick. So follow me. Okay, so our brownies are out of the oven, obviously. They've been cooling for actually 30 minutes. That's really, really important because that'll help us make a clean slice into our brownies. So I'm gonna just transfer them to the cooling rack and then we can slice in. Ooh, they're perfect. And there you have it, the most perfect vegan brownie. Seriously, these are so fudgy, they're so decadent and rich, you're gonna absolutely love them. That's so good. So to make this recipe, the full link is found down below in the description box. Just tap open that arrow and it's right there. And also be sure to leave a rating and review if you make them, because I think that's super helpful for other people if they want to make it and they're kind of leaning towards yes, maybe so. A review from you really helps. Let me know what you think about them down below in the comment section, and I know you're gonna love them. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification if you like videos like this and you wanna see more like them. And you can also give me a follow on the Banana Diaries on Instagram, _Banana Diaries. I post lots of recipe videos there as well. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Bye.